There we go, mate. Well, here we go, everyone. Welcome to Get This Rugby podcast with the great Chew. How are you, mate?
There you go, mate. Hello, everybody. Get this.
Get this in you. We're on to episode 24. We're going to do a bit of a season review for the bottom six clubs today. Tomorrow we might do the other six. We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate? So yeah, we're still processing the grand final, mate. We're over that, are we?
Yeah, mate. I'm over it now. Start thinking about next year now.
Yeah, so we got
the East blokes probably still aren't over it because they're probably drunk, and the North blokes are probably still getting therapy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They've needed a bit this year.
I don't know how they're going to get over it, but they will. They'll be all right.
They will. They're a good group, so I just hope they can eventually get it done for them for their own sanity. So let's move on, mate. So we'll do it in reverse order. So unfortunately, the team that got the wooden spoon this year was the West Harbour Pirates, mate. 3 wins overall, pretty disappointing, mate. You got to say.
Very disappointing. I suppose they got this season off to a really bad start. Like they were terrible early. And I sort of thought they were probably going to be pushing for the spoon at that stage, but then they just looked like a rabble to me. It looked like they hadn't been coached, and then the coach ups and leaves. And they went a lot better after that. So I don't know whether there was something going on there, but it looked like it.
Yeah, it was a weird year, mate. Like, because last year, like they finished what, 8th or 9th, and they actually looked pretty good, and to go backwards this year must have been disappointing for everybody involved. You know, we're definitely not here to put shit on clubs, but
no,
they it just was disappointing because they're really good people at West.
The one good thing they did, I think they unearthed 4 or 5 good young players this year.
Definitely.
I really like the looks of the hooker they got now. They unearthed this young 5'8" who was playing. They picked it. There was some young blokes in that team I think are going to be way better next year, especially under Phil Blake. You know, so I think there was some bonuses out of it. And the games they played well. They played really well. Like sometimes I look at the bottom 3, South and Newcastle in front of them. On most given days, I'd pick West to beat both those teams, you know. But they just couldn't seem to put a whole game together, apart from maybe once, a couple of times maybe. But I suppose that had a bit to do with a bit of inexperience and lacking in a few positions, I think. Like we watched them play was it Western Para when it was like, they raised the bat, didn't they? It was like 52-49 or something.
Wasn't much tackling that day. But see, the thing that I found frustrating about them, I think they probably in the end should have finished with about, say, 5 or 6 wins. They lost narrowly to South through a penalty goal. The game that sticks in my memory, round 14, they played Randwick and lost by a point.
Yep.
When Randwick were actually travelling pretty well. And then they turned around in round 17 and beat Warringah. So... And they beat Eastwood twice in the season.
Yeah, so. They seem to do that every year.
They seem to have a problem with Eastwood. Take it personal.
Eastwood have got a problem with them.
I think so. It is interesting. You talked about that hooker, Albert Alcock. I don't know a lot about him, but tell you what, he can play.
I thought, I might be wrong, but I thought he came out of Colts, but I'm not sure. But like he scored one of the best tries I've seen all year. He ran about 50, 60 metres down the sideline there, and the winger didn't even want to know about him, and he pretended to tackle him, and that was one of the best tries I ever see a hooker score. And he had other moments in games where he did some unfortunate things, let's say, and made a few mistakes, but he most of the time I thought he was probably one of their best players. But he's a bright prospect for them. There was a couple of, I don't know all their names offhand, but one of their back rowers played really well. One of their second rowers I thought played really well. In parts, and I think they had a little fella playing 5'8" who showed a lot of talent as well. But he's only a little fella.
Hannaford, he ended up playing fullback at the back end of the season.
Yeah,
kicks goals pretty well.
he certainly does.
Dion played most of the season.
Yeah.
James Favour, I thought, was reasonably solid.
Yeah, it was good when he was back in the team there. Yeah,
he for a while because
he settled them down a lot because early on they always seemed to me to be like every time they got the ball they were just unorganised and all over the shop and throwing passes behind and in front, everywhere. And when he came into 5'8", they seemed to give a lot more direction, I thought.
So this is where I think the future's not too bad, mate, because you look at their second grade, they end up missing the finals, but they were really good for a long time in the season. They sat in the top 6 till about the last 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So with Phil Blake coming in, I think there's a bit of hope for next year.
Mate, from what I've heard, he's been on the phone to a lot of players already that I've been informed about. So I wouldn't mind betting he brings a contingent of players with him. And if they can get some other guys coming through, I think they'll be one of the big improvers next year, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Like Phil doesn't go into anything wanting to lose. That young back row you're talking about is Corey Lanucci is his name. Young bloke, plays 7. He had a good year actually.
Yeah, he did. They and one of their second rows, quite a tall young bloke. He played quite well too. I think he might have been he'd come through.
So they missed finals in second grade. They ended up coming 8th, but they had 9 wins, which is, you've won half their games. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? Really?
A lot of times that'll get you in.
Yeah, and it was quite a few wins there in second grade to make the finals. It was like 11 wins, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was one of those years in second grade, wasn't it? It seemed like all the top teams were winning and all the bottom teams were losing. It was like it's the way the comp worked out in second grade. That there wasn't many upsets in that from the bottom to the top.
And they had quite a few good young blokes in that second grade side. That's why I'm thinking. I'm genuinely thinking they can move up the ladder. They could be knocking on.
I guarantee you they're not last next year.
No way. I'd guarantee that. So
I'd like to see them, in that knocking on the door for the finals, sort of, maybe just out of the finals with I don't know, seven wins, something like that. Like possibly, depending on what happens. But I can't see them winning the comp straight away. But I think they'll be one of the big improvers next year.
Yeah. So like I've said, they've lost 3 games by less than 7 points. So say they won that, there's 6 wins. If they turn that into an extra couple, 7 or 8 wins next year, they're knocking on the door. So
I think they'll be very competitive next year.
And they'll enjoy Phil's coaching because he's quality. So let's be honest.
I enjoyed Phil's coaching when he coached me, but he's a class act, so they'll be all right.
Yeah. And he's as fit as the players, mate. He's always looks bloody fit enough to keep playing. So, well, let's move on to one of your old clubs, mate. The South Rebels. They were
South shirt here.
they were similar to West, 3 wins. Now let's be honest here, mate. Like they were gutsy, but they lacked cattle this year.
Oh, mate, they had nothing, and I knew it was going to be a long year. And the second half of the season, they did really struggle, but that was always going to be the case. They just had no one. They had nothing in second and third grade. They had nothing on the bench. That just made it, come the end of June, you're getting a few injuries, and I knew it was going to be tough, and it was. And I know Joe and they tried their best down there, but just was never going to be a good year for them.
No, and they had trying to think. I know they beat Uni down there. Trying to think who their wins were.
I think they beat Newcastle.
Yeah, they beat Newcastle
up in the wet.
Up in the Hunter, I think.
Yeah. and
Might have been Newcastle twice, actually, now I think.
did they beat? They went. Oh, who else did they beat? How many wins was it?
They got 3 wins.
3 wins.
Well, no, they lost to Hunter up there.
They beat. Did they beat Warringah?
I'm not sure.
Or Manly? They beat one of the.
They
beat Uni.
They beat Uni. They lost a close game to 2 Blues, so that could have been another win.
No, they beat Uni.
Yeah, they beat West. Yeah, they could have beat Manly. That was a close one.
Mm.
Yeah, they beat Uni at home. So they beat. Yeah, so they. And they lost by 7 points to Gordon. That was in round 8. That was a good effort. They went through a patch in the middle of the season where they were pretty good, mate.
Yeah, they tried hard. It seemed to happen every week. They go off the first half, and then 10 minutes into the second half, they were just running out of gas and running out of players, and the last 20 got ugly in most of their games, and
they lost by 6 to North. So they could have almost a bit like West. They could have had 6 wins, 7 easily. And they beat Manly. Remember the famous one? They beat Manly at Manly Oval. That was round 14.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 42-35.
So they beat West, Manly, and Uni. That's it. Yeah. I know they beat Uni because I think that was that game at Uni or was that at South?
That was South, yeah.
That was at South, yeah. That's right. It was too, yeah.
I mean, they just struggled with depth with players off the bench.
Well, look, you got to look at it. That the last 3 years they've come last or second last. Second grades come last or second last, and third grades come last or second grade last. It's hard to attract players to the club, particularly where they are. They've had bugger all coming through because all those good Colts, when the joint got decimated 2 years prior, everyone left. And all those real good guys they had coming through have all gone. And it's hard to attract blokes to a club when they got nothing there to start with. It's, you can't get 15 blokes to go there. You probably need 30. It's they're in a really hard spot, and like Scotty Favour's taken over next year, and like he's got the hardest job in football for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. He's going to have to recruit.
But I think he'll do what he did at Norse when he took over at Norse. Norse were in a bad spot, and he got the Colts going because he was going to schools and doing the CHS thing, and getting juniors and bringing all those guys through. And that's how North built their success, which has gone on to this day. And I'm sure he'll have the same sort of thing in mind for South, building from the bottom up, and the top will take care of itself eventually. And I just think they've got to really it's going to be totally rebuild next year and just see what they can do. But I'd suggest they'll improve as well.
Yeah, I think they'll improve. I mean, they did have some bright lights. They had a young front row that played most of the season. The tight head prop Kyle Devine looks like a good kid to me.
Yeah.
And hooker James Douglas. Well, what about, mate, we've got to take our hats off to Jake Douglas and Phil Potgieter, mate, played every game.
Yeah, I think Phil played I think he played every minute of every game.
Yeah, I think they both
did. Douglas, he was struggling early in the year. He was a bit behind it, but he came on really well, and just a great club bloke that he knew they were in trouble, and he put it in every week, and so did Phil, and probably took a few years off their life and stuff, but. Geez, they worked so hard for the club, and it was a great effort.
Yeah, and they're unlucky in a way because Will Thomas, the Welsh kid they've had there for a few years, he hurt himself early in the season and didn't come back till about round 15. So
yeah,
that hurt. And I mean, as you said, they struggled for depth. Like most games you looked, they only used a couple of blokes off the bench because.
Who was the guy that was playing fullback early in the year with a really long name?
Yeah, he must have got hurt late in this season.
Yeah, because he was going really well. And
what was his name?
Geez, he's something. And then I never saw him again. I don't know if he took off somewhere or he got hurt. I never really heard about it.
Not sure about that. But Yeah, we got to take our hat off to Joe Barracat, mate. He tells us
Oh,
he's
mate.
retired now. We don't know.
Sure, yeah, well done, Joe. He took them over last year. That was always going to be hard, and but they played with a lot of ticker. I'll give them that.
Yeah, no, they did definitely. So we wish Scotty all the best with him. As I said, it's a big job, but I got faith that he can do something down there.
Look, if they just leave him to his devices down there and let him do what he wants to do and get on board with him, you watch a couple of years' time. I think South they'll be back in the picture.
Yeah, I think so. So the Hunter Wildfires, mate, they finished 10th with 5 wins. We've said before, biggest disappointments for us.
Oh, for sure. After 23, I really expected them to, probably make the semis. At least in the bottom 5 or 6, 5th or 6th. I just couldn't get over the way they played this year. I just couldn't understand it myself. And I think they bombed a golden opportunity, because I think if they do go well up there, I think the whole community up there in Newcastle will get behind them. And they sort of let that go this year. And that opportunity's gone. And I don't know. What do you reckon? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And they've had 5 wins, but they're all against teams that didn't make the final. So they're all against the fellow teams around the 8.
Yeah. They didn't look like beating the top teams.
No, they didn't. And even some games where they just really looked inept. I remember a game we went and watched at Gordon. They just really struggled that day. And
they had some good players on the field that day too.
Yeah. Well, they had pretty much the same team they had last year. And I know they got.
There you go.
I know they got. Bubba's got Darren Coleman coming in to help him next year. So, I could just hope that they can get better.
You'd think that'd improve them, wouldn't you? And you'd think he'd be able to recruit some players from the local competition up there, because that's what they really need. They need that local comp to get behind them, rather than being in opposition to them, and supplying all the best players, and letting these players have a crack in the Shute Shield. And rather than keep them in the Newcastle comp, they can always go back and play for their clubs at Newcastle. And I think they could be really good if they just get everyone behind them in the local community, rather than just attracting players from elsewhere. And there's got to be some country guys up there that would like to have a crack.
Yeah, it's been an interesting thing.
Central Coast blokes. There's plenty of players up there and around there that I think they could get, and hopefully Darren Coleman will be able to get them in there.
Yeah, and I think it's been a slow developing thing as well. I know their Colts took a while to start, but this year they had two grades of Colts. So I think Muggo was helping there for a while, and that seems to be developing, even though they didn't have massive amount of wins. It's developing okay, and their second grade was good last year, but not so good this year. So maybe they're definitely got to have a look at. I agree with you. Start targeting the country areas.
Oh, for sure. There's plenty of guys in all around there, and down in the Central Coast. There's like the Central Coast comp. There's a lot of good players running around in that, and it's only half an hour up the road, and I just think they can tap into a market up there. And the other thing is they should get the Colts going, because there's plenty of kids up there who, if they don't want to play in the Central Coast League, or they just don't want to play in Newcastle, they should be able to get 3 good Colts teams up there, and at least 2 good Colts teams, because there's plenty of kids who'd be looking for a game, and I think they've got to really go and try and attract those guys to the club.
Yeah, they struggled in Colts. Only had a couple of wins in first Colts, so I guess it's just something that's got to keep developing. Mate, Bubba's there for another year, so I don't know. It's on them now, mate. I don't know what to predict for next year, but
be interesting to see how many of the guys from this year back up, who they keep, and
the big captain, he's retired, so he won't be there.
Who's that?
The big second rower, Rob Pulavaya. He's
Okay.
retired, so he was one of the
Yeah.
Iron Men.
Interesting to see what AT does.
Yeah, and hopefully Donnie Freeman will hang around still.
Yeah, well, he was flogging a dead horse. Well, you geez, he tried hard. And,
he was their best every week.
Oh, for sure. Like he's a class act, that fella, and they want to do their best to hold on to him.
So yeah, I mean, I expected them to improve next year. Whether they can make finals, I'm not sure, because not everyone can make it, obviously. But
Yep.
Yeah, I'd expect better than 5 wins.
Yeah, they got to do that. If they keep going really bad, they'll start looking at wanting to punt them. So
yeah, that's right. They've got to keep up there. All right, so that's Hunter. So then we had Eastwood, mate. They finished 9th. They had 6 wins.
Yeah.
A side that had to be rebuilt because they lost quite a few players, and I thought the coach Dave Telfer did all right.
Yeah. A lot of ways they had to get rid of a lot of the players that had been there for so long, I thought, but it had to happen, and they did it. So,
and when you have a look at some of the wins they had, they beat some good sides over this season, mate. They didn't just beat the teams around them. They beat. No, round 2? They beat round 3, I think it was. They beat Warringah at home. That was a wet day.
Yeah.
Not that that's any excuse for Warringah. They just didn't play well. Yeah, and then they certainly unearthed. They beat East. They beat East at Wallara. So that must have been then round 5. That was probably the best win of the year, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, they won at Wallara this year.
They never seem to be able to put 2 games together this year. That was a big problem for. I don't think they ever won 2 in a row. It was they play well one week and then get whipped the next week, or just make silly mistakes. And they, I think what they needed to do was, like, they got better as they went on. I thought, and they that had to happen. And new coach, a lot of young blokes in the team, and I think they're just a bit light on up front. For quality blokes, and I think if they can strengthen up in the tight 5, I think that'll go a long way to getting them somewhere next year.
And you have a look at it, Pete. They won 6 games. They've lost 3 games by 1 point. They lost to Gordon by a point. They lost to, I think it was they lost to Hunter by a point, and they lost to someone else. It was a close game. So they could have been 8 or 9 wins.
I think they lost to Norse when there was a penalty goal on full time, or something like that. Yeah.
So that's a 3. That could have been. That would have been 9 wins, and that's close to getting them into 6, 9 wins.
Yeah.
And with a young side, I mean, you've got to take your hats off to the Dave Telfer, who had the Colts for a few years. He did a good job.
Oh, he certainly did, and they improved as they went on, and that's what you're looking for when you do what they did this year. Is improvement, and they definitely did, and a lot of players improved during the year, like individually, and not just the team. And I think it sets them up well for this year. What's going on with their clubhouse, and or not the clubhouse, but the ground, or where they're going to play, or what's going to happen there is a bit of a question mark.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens with that.
I don't know what's going to happen there, but they definitely unearthed some good players. I can't think of his name now. The young tight end prop. He ended up playing for the Australian under-20s.
Yeah.
What was his name? And then they had that young McGregor, James McGregor, the real fast little bloke. He had a good year.
He had a great year. Yeah, he was a handful. Geez, he was hard to tackle when he got in a bit of open space.
One comedy moment for me, in the last round, they had Ratu playing on the wing. I thought that was interesting.
We spend a lot of time there generally anyway. He spent more time there than he did at the breakdown the last couple of years I've watched him.
Yeah, and they've got some decent, like they had a young halfback, Tom Goddard. He had a pretty good year. They've got a couple of the Harry Snook, who played 10.
Well, Hickey, the other halfback, has started the year. I thought he was going really well as well. And I suppose if he's not in first grade next year, I'd say he'd be up for a first grade spot in another club as well.
Yeah, and the captain, the young captain that they picked to play 7, he just struggled to get on the field most of the year.
He seems to always be hurt, and doesn't look like he's ever in the best of nick because of that. And it'd be interesting to see if we can get through a whole off season in one piece, and we might see the best of him next year and see what he can do.
I'd like to see.
I don't think we've really seen it yet.
I'd like to see Alex Papalato get really fit over this off season and really have a crack next season. He was in and out. I
coached him as a kid as well, and
I don't know how old he'd be.
Well, I coached him in I think it was Sydney West. It was under 17s, I think it was a few years back. He's got to be nearly 30. He's got to be nearly 30, I suppose.
Yeah.
If not 30, but he's gradually got bigger since I coached him in the 17s. Around the guts mainly.
Yeah, I think.
But he was a good player, and you're exactly right. If he could knock 20 kilos off his middle, like he's quite a skillful player. He's a good scrummager. He's a smart kid. He's got a lot of skills, and you just can't show it when you're just not fit. And I think they had that problem in that there was a couple of guys playing for them this year that dead set need to have a look at their diets and stuff. But it's too hard to play when you're carrying that much weight.
That's right. But I'd expect them to improve next year too. Right? Yeah. They've got 6 wins with a young side. Mate, I think they'll be knocking on the door for the finals.
I just like to know where they're going to train, where they're going to play at. If this stuff with the ground happens, and that could be very disruptive to them as well. But,
well, if Castle Hill, they say, has been approved, surely they could just fast track it. All you need is a field. You could set up a temporary stand for, so they can play. I don't know.
Well, I've seen it, and they haven't done anything there for 2 years when they were supposed to. And
it's got to be sorted.
And the last I heard that they hadn't been given the money, so like the club hadn't. And I don't know what's going on. It's all a bit of a mystery. I don't know. If they sold it, they should have the cash. If they haven't sold it, we'll sell it to someone else. I don't know.
I don't know what they're going to do if they haven't got it. They might have to play out of Granville or something. I don't know, mate. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't know.
What else around there?
What's that ground like at Macquarie Uni?
It's not too bad, but there's no grandstands or nothing.
Right. I wasn't sure. I haven't been there for years, and they could play there possibly.
They could train there, maybe.
Hey?
They could train there, I guess. I don't know about playing.
Yeah, well, it's only around the corner. I'm not sure where else they could. Where do Ryde Eastwood play league at?
They play it there. That's what I mean. That affects them too.
At that ground, they play in there. I thought they played somewhere else.
No, they play there on a Sunday normally.
I thought they had another ground somewhere.
I don't know, mate. I don't think so.
Yeah,
not that I know of 100%, but anyway.
Well, you never know. They might still be able to play at Milner next year if they do some negotiations or something.
Yeah, well, something's got to be worked out. But anyway, looks like Dave Telfer's staying on as coach, so that's good.
Yeah.
Your other old teammate, the Two Blues, they finished 8th. They had 7 wins in the end.
Yeah.
It was probably above. They probably batted above their average most of the season, in my view.
Yeah, I think a few teams lost to them that probably shouldn't have. It was always going to be a long year for Para as well, especially the second half of the year. I'm not sure where they're going to go next year, to tell you the truth.
It's hard to. I can't see much changing, mate. Like they've made some changes around their lower grade coaches. They've brought some good people in their Colts. But I mean, if they lose players again, like they did this year, to other clubs, what's really going to hurt?
Well, part of the problem was most of that team was imports. You can't get an import team every year. It's just not sustainable. And without bringing guys through, there seems to be no development work going on. They're not chasing schools. They're not chasing juniors. That stuff's just not happening. And you can't just keep propping up first grade with imports, hoping it's going to work. And the last few years, it hasn't. And when eventually, if the money runs out, they'll run out. It's just they've got to change something there to get the joint viable, because there's nothing between them and the mountains, and they're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's a shame, but I don't. If they just go about business the same way they did this year, I'll be surprised they make it to the end of the year. It's just I just don't know how they can keep doing it the way they're doing it. It's just not working, and I just can't see anything happening positive at the moment. No one's telling me anything that makes me think any different.
No, and it's a shame because on the field most of the year in first grade they had a real go. There's some games like they beat North and Gordon during the year at home, and they lost a couple of close games to Warringah.
Mm.
They actually performed quite well on the field, but it's just the second grade was no wins.
Yeah.
Third
they had
grade
some
was
good
no
players.
wins.
The Suey brothers played well. And particularly at halfback, and then Ari Hunt in the front row. He was probably one of the standout props for me in the whole competition. I'm actually taking a bit of interest in him in the off season, and he's really keen to have a big year next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if a few other clubs start looking at him, because everyone I spoke to at other clubs just raved about it, like the skill level of the fella. And he's another one. If he can get fit, he's going to be really good. He's only 30, and he's very keen. And he's got probably the most skillful prop runner around, and he's a good player. So it's just what they can put around him. If that's going to be the problem, I just don't know.
Yeah, and they hurt one of the Suey brothers hurt himself late in the year. That hurt him. But I think Ari
that was a halfback, wasn't it?
Was a 5'8".
It was a 5'8", yeah.
I mean, Ari's got to have an advantage, mate. He could carry that ball in a big bloody hand of his almost like a tennis ball.
Yeah, he's got skills
hands.
like Arthur Beaton. Like he can put blokes through gaps. And
oh yeah, I've seen quite a few. He must have set up multiple tries with his passing.
and he's good in the tight stuff, and he's one. Like I've had a chat to him, and if we strip 20 or 30 kilos off him, look out.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's one to look forward to. I mean, looking forward to next year. I just don't. I can't make a prediction because Solosi's staying. You'd like to think they can improve because we both love the joint. Let's be honest. And but I don't know, mate. Something's got to change if they want to improve. I don't know.
Yeah, well, if something changes, I'll change my mind. But if it doesn't change, I just don't know what's going to become of them.
And they got a couple of good blokes coming in to run second grade, so hopefully they can sort that out. Number one.
Oh, good luck to them.
Get some local players, like you say. Get some local players. I've spoken to the GM there. I said they've got to get some local players in there again.
Oh,
have to.
There's
out
kids
there
all the way from Parramatta to Penrith to Campbelltown to Richmond who aren't getting a game of rugby, and they've got to go and find them. And it's ridiculous. It's the biggest growth area in the whole of Australia, probably. And I just don't know, is there any other rugby playing nation in the world that'll let the biggest growth area of kids not have a rugby team or not attract them to a rugby team? Like, I couldn't see it happening anywhere else.
And you know
what's going on in Sydney with getting rid of Penrith and doing nothing with the western suburbs is outrageous.
It's disgraceful. Yeah,
you wonder why Australia's going bad.
Yeah, that's right. So one thing I said to someone the other day too is you have a look at Blue Mountains. They've won the last two subbies premierships, so they should have a look at them. They've probably got players good enough to come and play.
Yeah, when was the last time they put on a training thing at a school or for juniors out there, out of St Mary's or Blacktown or Penrith? Or as far as I know, none of this stuff's happening. And someone's like they're spending money in areas. Just turn it up to train the team for an hour a week doesn't qualify you for your money. You've got to get out there and start doing some work for the to build the club up. That's what they need.
Yeah, they could reach out to us, mate. We'd bloody get involved, but they doesn't seem to happen.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. But
I don't know how they're going to go next year. I don't know.
Well, I think the four teams we just spoke about could jump them.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the last team we're going to talk about, mate, is Sydney Uni, mate. They finished 7th with 7 wins and a stack of bonus points.
Stack. How many did they finish with?
But 18 bonus points. Actually, most bonus points in the comp they finished with.
Wow.
Even one more than East, who won the comp.
Yeah.
And you know what that was? It was a whole lot of games they lost by close margins, but not all of those games did they actually deserve to win anyway.
I saw a lot of their games where they were getting done, and then they score some rubbish tries at the end and stuff, and
yeah,
to get them close. And I just hate that bonus point rule. But they were another disappointment this year, I suppose you'd have to say.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, although, I haven't heard what's happening with the coaching. I assume Todd's going around again, but I haven't heard. But for them not to make the finals 2 years in a row, I mean, things aren't so rosy there, mate.
No, I believe they've got some pretty good Colts coming through, but that's not necessarily going to fix everything. I don't know. I think their team had a fair amount of young fellas in it, didn't it?
There was quite a few young guys. I know they had a young 10. The young 7, he got the Allsop, he got Rookie of the Year, so that was a good reward for him.
Yeah, he played okay. Their number 8 that used to play 7, I wonder if he's going around again next year.
Well, I hope so, but they've got to sort out, like, is he going to play 7, 8? I mean, he's not a number 8. I
would have swapped him around, to tell you the truth. I just don't think he's an 8 either. But I think they could I think that 7 could probably play 8.
Yeah.
But
well, you have a look at I was just going through their wins. The only team they've beaten in the top 6 was North in round 1. And that was only because of a yellow card. So all the rest of the wins were against the bottom 6.
That knockdown pass thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, which was iffy.
Yeah, it was a shocker, I thought. But yeah, so realistically, they never look like making the semis.
I don't think they deserved it. No. On form. But having said that, like you say, they do have some young blokes there coming through. Like we said, that Sam Allsop, he got Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. How did their second grade go this year?
Second grade made finals and knocked out in week 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, McCalman. They had that Strang at halfback. He had a pretty good year. That Angus Allen, he used to be at Southern Districts. He's there. And they had the 2 Pullman boys. They're not. I thought it cleaned.
Well, they had some decent players on the field this year. Yeah, that's why it was a bit of a disappointment in that they didn't go better than what they did. Because they looked. I just thought. I mentioned it during the shows during the year how they were very predictable in attack and teams could defend against them easy, and it's like they were missing something this year. There's just something missing there. It was a bit of a spark. They always looked a little bit flat to me. I don't know, but very predictable and they looked slow. I thought, particularly like through the backs. But
you know what I always felt it was too. I felt like they lacked a plan B. Like there was just plan A, the way they were going to play, but they couldn't change it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It happened every week, and one thing, particularly until for probably at least half the year, maybe a bit longer, their line out and scrum wasn't good. It was really uncharacteristic for Uni. Their line out was bloody terrible, and their scrum wasn't real good. But they got a lot better towards the end there, where they strung those 3 or 4 or 5 games, whatever they did at the end, or close to the end. They got a bit better then because they had to. I remember talking about it probably halfway through the year, that how Uni's set piece was not like what you expect from Uni.
It wasn't a very Uni-like season. It wasn't a Uni season that you would say that's the Uni type of play.
No, and that's why I don't know what's going on with the coaching, but you don't make the semis, and that's 2 years in a row. I know the coach wasn't there the year before, but usually you miss the semis at Uni, you're not there for very long. And
Yeah,
I don't know if he's there next year. Something will have to change.
Well, nothing's been said, so it makes me think there's might be stuff going on in the background.
Or he's already there and they're just going to leave it. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But either way, there's got to be some sort of improvement. Otherwise, they won't go any better than what they did.
That's right. Yeah.
Because there's going to be teams up their bum next year who are going to improve, and we've mentioned them.
That's right.
And the teams that were in the top 6 probably aren't going to get too much worse. So they've got to do something.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the thing. I think as we sort of wrap up, mate, with the top 6 aren't. I can't see any of those teams in the top 6 slipping down. That's going to be the challenge.
Like teams like Gordon and Moringa were big improvers, and they're probably still going to be like that next year.
Yeah,
Randwick's still going to be good. I can see North still being there. Who's that? Like East? Well, it probably depends who East have got playing. And who was the other one? Manly. Manly's probably the team that might drop out, maybe.
Yeah, and they've just lost their coach in the last week or so. So they're going to get a new coach. Yeah, he's going to do something else, women's rugby or something.
Oh, right.
Australian women's.
He was there for a while, wasn't he?
He was there for about 3 years, I think.
Yeah, geez.
So anyway, that's those ones, mate. That's our part 1 of the season reviews. So we thought we might just quickly, mate. What do we want to say about this Wallabies schmozzle the other day? I mean, it was, mate. I put a post up saying it was disgusting and a disgrace to the jersey, and no one really disagreed with me.
Oh, it's just not acceptable. Like, it's a test match, you know. It's not a 60 points against Argentina. Come on now. It's I don't know. It's just not we've never let in that many points in history, have we?
No, that was the worst loss in history, I think. And we led 20-3 after 30 minutes. So they've led 64-7 in the next 50 minutes. I mean, there was some absolutely. I watched the second half, and there was some blokes that just didn't make any effort in defence, mate. They just went straight through. And
it was funny. I didn't watch the game live, and on the radio, on the news, I heard in the car, they said, Australia got done by Argentina, but they didn't give the score. And I went, oh, yeah. Thinking it must have been close. And then someone messaged me or something when I got home and told me the score, and I just got, bullshit, you know. Then I watched it. I was flabbergasted, mate. I just couldn't believe what I saw. Now they've got to play the Blacks. Good luck.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? It wasn't like we had a weakened side. He picked a fairly strong side.
Well, they beat him the bloody week before.
Yeah, 7 days before we beat them. Yeah.
I didn't think they played that well in that game, and that was. It was a pretty ordinary game, I thought, that one. But you wouldn't have thought they'd get 60 put on them.
Mate, I've been trying to process it all week. I just can't get my head around it, mate. I've seen some ordinary Wallaby losses, but
no one's talking about it really now. I think everyone's just trying to forget about it. That's probably what they're doing. You know?
Well,
but I don't know.
But to his credit, the coach come out and said it was totally unacceptable. And to his credit, and we've seen some of them talk bullshit before, but at least he said that.
Yeah, well.
And if you won't be picked again, I don't reckon. If you
I guarantee you, the coach didn't miss any of those tackles on the weekend, and some of the stuff that went on out there was like people getting paid to play like that, like let alone playing for your country.
And you know, one of the saddest ones for me, like I really liked the kid Ben Donaldson, but mate, he must have missed half a dozen tackles in that game that led to tries. I mean. It was just not good. And they got some blokes in there, they say, oh, yeah, they're made for test rugby. No, they're not.
No.
No, they're not.
No.
And it was just,
I think it goes down to the structure of Australian rugby at the moment, where you're pulling kids out of school to play rep football. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any other country either.
And something's got to be done, because I just read an article today where they're saying rugby league's now getting into the private schools. What hope have we got?
Well, you haven't got any hope when look, the way New South Wales has been run the last few years, and the things they've done and the players they've ruined, and just the way the whole thing's been run, that's why we've got problems. And it's coming out at the top now. And, you go to South Africa, you go to England, go to France, you go to New Zealand, you don't get kids coming out of school and playing in the provincial team. They go and play club football. They do an apprenticeship. They learn their trade. Yep. When you're good enough, you get in the rep team. You can't train blokes to play on potential in a national team or a state team. It's all the wrong way round. And
sure.
It's and they've been doing it for a while, and it's really set in now. And I think that's the big problem we've got, and they've got to change it. Otherwise, they're not going to get any better.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
we'll see what happens. Enough of that. We just hope it can get better, but it's going to get ugly.
I do too. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, mate, we might pull it there and
pull it off.
We might catch up tomorrow and do the rest of the team.
All right. Yeah, well, that might be a good one.
And thanks everyone for listening. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and just send us a comment or two.
Yeah, for sure. Get this.
All right, get this. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Thanks, mate.